What real-life inspirations lie behind the Bene Gesserit? Let's look into this with the help of the book The Worlds of Dune by Tom Huddleston. We are told that Herbert drew on his wife as a model for Lady Jessica. His wife had been supporting him whilst he was writing his novels. The Bene Gesserit stand behind the men of the great houses, influencing them from the shadows, and Jessica plays a key role advising Leto, training and protecting Paul, and seeing traps laid for her Duke. And of course, she gets these abilities from her training in the ranks of the Bene Gesserit, who manipulate bloodlines over centuries. Secret power brokers is how they act. The book tells us the biographer Timothy O'Reilly argues that the earliest inspiration must have been Frank Herbert's own material aunts, a gang of powerful Irish Catholic women who overcame Herbert's agnostic father and insisted that the son receive Catholic training. We can perhaps see further evidence with the main text of faith in the Dune novels, the Orange Catholic Bible. Now in the novels, this is a blending of many different religions into one book, despite the title it has. And it contains a key teaching in light of the Butlerian Jihad: thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind. Within his personal faith, Frank Herbert was instructed by Jesuits, which clearly have a verbal link to the Gesserit name. This order, which spread the message of faith through what they did and said, also bears similarities with the Bene Gesserit and their Missionaria Protectiva. On planets where the Bene Gesserit might be left in danger, such as Arrakis, they spread prophecy and superstition, putting into place ways they can manipulate the people there in case one of the sisterhood is stranded and is in danger. That is the Bene Gesserit parallel to religion. There is also a similarity in the political influence that the Bene Gesserit wield. The book tells us that the Jesuits had acting confessors to some noble families in Europe, just like the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mahayam serves the Padisha Emperor in the role of truth-sayer. And now Jessica serves Leto. The book tells us another possible source for the name Bene Gesserit. It's a Latin phrase meaning well-behaved, as in the legal phrase quam diu, say Bene Gesserit, or Gesserint, which states that a person shall be allowed to hold a particular office for as long as she conducts herself properly. Another origin lies in Arabic. Bene stands for sons or children, or perhaps there could be the blending of all three influences, as we see in many of the ideas in Frank Herbert's work in the original Dune novel. But what of the powers of the Bene Gesserit? The voice, for example. Again, the novel tells us Herbert was influenced by his study of genetic. Let me amend that. It is not genetic, it is general semantics, a philosophy of language developed in the early 20th century to explore how worlds affect our perception of the world and how the names we give to things can influence our experiences of those things. A great example of this is how the Bene Gesserit have seeded the myth on Arrakis that Paul and his mother tap into, where they are seen as saviours by the Fremen. Paul is seen as the Listen Al-Gaib, the voice from the outer world, and they invoke and call on this to influence the Fremen into aiding them in their fight against the Harkonnens. Without this, they might have been worm fodder. A writer around the time Dune was written is called Korzybski, who recognised that our perception of the world is heavily influenced both by our physical body, whose sensations constantly bombard us, and by language, the limitations of which can restrict how much we are capable of understanding. As a result, we often misread reality, a tendency that this author was determined to stamp out. Through general semantics, he claimed humanity would be able to recognise its own limitations and thereby overcome them, gaining a richer understanding of what is really happening around us. Well summarised by the Bene Gesserit quote that comes to mind: "My mind controls my reality." This man taught students, one of whom Frank Herbert met briefly. And semantics left a mark in his mind. In Dune, these semantics are things a human can be trained to recognise and read and manipulate. The Bene Gesserit find and take advantage of those hidden meanings in others, to tap into personal emotions, history and intentions. And an obvious also idea suggested by the book that I had not thought of was the character of Sherlock Holmes, whose observational skills aided the cases he solved. Now, the voice in Dune gives the sisterhood a great ability. If they can hit the right pitch and timbre and words, they can sway people from what they want to do. The book tells us Herbert would later explain his thinking, taking the blunt caricature of a loyal soldier, a small-town American patriot and conservative. It wouldn't take much, the author argued, just a few well-chosen words to influence this man's emotions and make him hopping mad. If you know the individual well enough, Herbert argued, if you know the subtleties of his strengths and weaknesses, then merely by the way you cast your voice, by the words you select, you can control him. The Bene Gesserit are also known for being able to control their bodies and organs completely. How else could you convert a poison to something inert or decide the sex of your child as Jessica did? This is defined by the book as prana bindu, the total comprehension and control of one's body, organs, nerves and muscles. Its name is taken from Sanskrit, where it means energy point. This ultimate mind-body discipline again sees Herbert taking real-world ideas and developing them, imagining how they might become exponentially more formidable in the future. Herbert would meet a man called Alan Watts, who explored Zen philosophy and became friends with him, and Frank Herbert took an interest in Japanese culture from furniture to herbs, and you can see this influence of the control of their bodies in the Bene Gesserit. And that, friends, is where we'll wrap up today's video.